So here we are in Yaakov. We're on 18 Yudchet. So it says, B'nei Rav Chia nafuk l'kriyata. So Rav Chia's sons went out to the villages where they had their family estate. Yakar lehu talmudaihu, and they stayed there so long that they forgot their learning. Do you have this? This? Okay. They took pains to try to recall what they had learned. So one of the sons said to the other, does our father know, who is no longer alive, does he know of this pain that we are experiencing, of not remembering? So the other one replied, how could he know, being that he's dead? For after all is written in the Torah, Yichbedu banav v'lo yeda. His sons may attain honor, and he not know it. So and that's coming from Job. Okay. Let's just go through the story. Okay. And it says v'lo yada, but does he then not know? V'haiketiv is written in the very next verse. Ach b'saro alav yichav v'nafsho alav te'eval. But his flesh will pain him, and his spirit will mourn for him. So if he doesn't know, the obvious question is, if he doesn't know what's going on, so how can his flesh pain him? You understand? That's the question. Ba'amar Yitzchak. So Rav Yitzchak said, Kasha rima lemeit kamacha b'bisar hachai. So Rav Yitzchak said, I explained this verse. He said, the worm is as painful to the dead as a needle to living flesh. So obviously we see that the dead are aware of the mortification of their bodies. Presumably they are likewise aware of the affairs of this world. So the Gemara says, Amri, they said, B'tzara didhu yada. It's not true what you're saying. They know of their own suffering. B'tzara dacharina lo yada. But they are not necessarily aware of the pain of the others. So so we understand that when it comes to like I said, like I just explained, when it comes to their own pain, we have to deal with that. Otherwise, not. Okay, so the Iyun Yaakov says, Kasha rima lebasar hamei kemacha basar chai, that the worms is painful to the dead as a needle to living flesh. He explains, Lo shaguf shall made atzmo yesh lo hargasha. It's not literally that the body of the deceased has this feeling. Sharei amrin and in basara made margish bizamel, because we say that a dead person doesn't really feel the like a needle, a knife. Okay. But really, it's difficult for the neshama, the soul, the bizoy haguf atzmo, that it was kokach, there was a denigration of its body. In other words, when my neshama is what not mine. I'm still alive, Baruch Hashem. When a person passes away, his neshama is somehow, I don't know how to explain this better, is somehow tethered to this body.
Is that for only a period of time, or is that like
until the body apparently disintegrates?
Also, that goes on.
It can go on for a little while. So that's why the neshama is affected by the denigration of this body. So when the worms start eating it, which is a denigration, is going to be pained. Okay, Pirush, we learned this out in Sefer Hasidim. Elahachi Pesach Sham, the mutulitain sid al hamet. Therefore, he ruled. There's a whole commentary going on here that the Rashba, in a response, said that it would be permissible to put lime on the body, in order that it would cause the body to decay faster. V'achi kaim v'lan kemuvur b'Yerdea, and we established in Yerdea the Vishaena Habasar Hamed Margish Izamel. That's because the reason we allow it is because the flesh of the dead cannot feel that type of knife or whatever it's going to be aval sorachim. But he says that we have to have thought about this. The high negative sugya b'dashas, because it goes against another part of the Gemara in the Gemara Shabbat, where so the Gemara answers be'inyan acher she'apirush ein abasar meit shebachai margish bizamil, and there it says in that Gemara that the dead person will not have the same feeling as the live person when it comes to the izamil. But and he says, but still, izamil again it's a small type of knife. I don't know how to describe that, but they're comparing they're saying there's a problem with this, because on one hand we say it does feel it, on the other hand we say it does not feel it. So you have that's what the Iyun Yaakov's question is. But his main point is to say that we're not really talking about the real body, but rather the neshama that is tethered somehow to this body. So that's how we understand that. Okay, so now let's go on to the second part. So it says, just want to make sure that I know this again. Where was it? Okay. Below, it says, and so now we're going to have a little bit of a debate. Below, but do they not know about the affairs of the next world? Tanya. But behold, we learned in a Braita, it happened that there was a pious man. I'll go through the story just so you understand. It's a long story, but it's an interesting story. Okay, and then we'll go back and try to finish up, figure out what's really going on behind the scenes. He says, so there would happen to be a certain pious man, Shnatan Dinar, La'ani Be'erev Rosh Hashanah B'shnei, who gave a dinar as charity to a poor man on the eve of Rosh Hashanah in the year of a famine. Okay, a dinar is a coinage. Viknitato Ishto, and his wife provoked him over it. Apparently they didn't have enough money, okay, so he was poor, so he was giving it away. And so they have a nice fight. So he went and spent the night in the cemetery. Okay. So it's
nobody will bother him.
Say what?
Nobody will bother him.
Bother him. Well, we'll get into it. Like I said, it's I don't want to get stuck on everything here, but it's an interesting thing. It's because there's a whole question: why would he go there? And so very quickly, the Maharsha. I'll just read the article for this, and then we'll go into it. But the Maharsha expresses this belief that a pious man such as Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai would spend the night of Rosh Hashanah in the cemetery. He therefore posits that this entire episode in the cemetery, as well as those that follow later, are occurred in dreams. So he doesn't want to say that he actually went to the cemetery because Erev Rosh Hashanah. On the other hand, if you just want to take it simple level, what better thing to do at the time of Yom Hadin, or in that time period, to go, go to a place where you're going to really think about what the end result is. Okay. Anyway, so he's there in the cemetery. And while he was there, he heard two spirits of two deceased children conversing with each other. Okay, and so Rashi wants to argue that there were two girls, two girls talking, two dead girls talking. Okay, so Amra Chada leChavertam. So one said to the other, Chaverti, Boi v'nashut ba'olam. My friend, let us roam the world. V'nishma ma'acharei paragod, and hear from behind the curtain, which is behind the curtain, it would be, from heaven, as it were. Right. Ma Poranio Bali Olam. What misfortune will come to the world this year? Amra Lachaverta. Says any. So her friend replied, "Any Yechola, I can't come with you. Why? Shani Kavor Mechatzelet Shelkanim, because I'm buried in a mattings of reeds." And so they explained that her family was too poor to afford a proper linen shroud, and she was ashamed to be seen in such poor attire. Although the other spirit was not proposing that they bodily leave the grave, the disembodied spirit appears dressed in the same clothing as the body itself, spiritually. Okay. Alternatively, the Slach explains that as long as the body has not decomposed, the spirit cannot fully disengage from it. For this reason, the dead are buried in linen shrouds, which decompose quickly, and they do not retard the body's decomposition. Because this girl was buried in sturdy reed matting, her body was unable to decompose quickly, and her spirit could not roam freely. So the second one would be the more, I hate to use the word logical. The millions of people who are listening to this will probably be laughing when I say that. But that would be the more palatable. That's the word I'm looking for. Palatable. The second one, where that you want everything to decompose quickly, which is why, by the way, in the Gemara in Shabbos we said, I think it was in Shabbos that they quoted that the Rashba allowed them to put on lime in order to let the body go quicker. Okay, because what happens is once the body and everything is decomposed, the neshama is freed. Until then, the neshama is somehow tethered. I don't know why it's tethered. I don't know how that works. But here, when she's buried in a matting of reeds, it seems to be stopping her from decomposing as quickly as it should just be put into some other thing.
You were saying the other one is I'm buried in a mat of reeds instead of linen shrouds. You're saying that linen, which is also natural fiber, would decompose quicker?
Yeah, but that's going on the opinion that says that she didn't want to be seen in such poor attire. So you have two ways to look at it.
For whatever reason, this covering of matting is.
It was either embarrassing. It was either embarrassing to her.
Or it's keeping the body from decomposing sooner.
That's the second opinion. There's two opinions. One is it's stopping the decomposition of the body, which means that she's not free to leave. The other one is because the parents were too poor, so they couldn't even afford proper linen shrouds, and therefore
they just wove some reeds together to make a covering.
Right, but what I'm saying is, imagine if I'm going to, I have poor clothes. We were just talking about this, okay? Before we started, that when you're going out, you want to feel like the prince, as it were. So you want to go in your proper attire.
So linen's very good.
Linen is very good. So I go out in my linen stuff. But if I have something that's
it's a very fine weave. The other stuff is be very coarse.
It's coarse. I don't want to go out in that. People will see me.
Right. Okay.
If people would see me, I don't want Chas v'Shalom be seen.
Yeah.
Who would? When you die, you want to die nice. So as what you said, your grandmother said, right? If I get killed, I have to change my underwear, right? So, okay. So same sort of thing. So you want to be dressed appropriately.
Yep.
Okay. Whatever the case is going to be. She says I can't go.
This gives you a word from the ancient world, sarcophagus, which means the flesh eater. They would make their coffins out of limestone.
Okay.
Because it had the advantage of devouring the flesh, and it would work within a year, and then they could take the bones out and put them in a ossuary.
I know what they do with that.
They would bury it in the family.
Oh, that's a problem. But the problem is the bones also have to decompose.
That's an awful long time, right?
That's going to take some time.
Okay.
Yeah, the lime won't do that.
Okay. So maybe it's just the flesh that they have to give it. Okay. I'm not sure. So it says Ella lechi elchiyat, but rather you go, since you're free, Uma sha'at shamat imile, and come back and tell me whatever you hear. Halchahi. So she went, Vishata Uva'an, she went and returned, V'amra la chaverta, and her friend said to her, Chaverti, my friend, Ma Shamad me'acharei pargul. So, what have you seen from behind the curtain? Amra la, she replied, Shamati, shekolat Rebbe Reviyah, Rishona, Barad Malakio. So, I heard that the crops of anyone who plants this winter at the time of the first rain will be destroyed by hail. Halachu, hearing this, the pious one went to Rebbe Shniya. He planted at the time of the second rain. Shekol halam kulo laka, and everybody's crops were destroyed. Shelo lo laka, while his were not destroyed. So it pays to go to the cemetery apparently on Erev Rosh Hashanah.
You never know what you're going to hear.
Now the thing I don't want to get lost in is why. Remember, what's going on is that one spirit says to the other, "Let's go." The important thing here is Erev Rosh Hashanah. What are we doing Erev Rosh Hashanah? What do we say about Erev Rosh Hashanah? That the world is being judged.
Eve of judgment, yeah.
The world is being judged. The world is being judged. So if the world is being judged, this is the time to find out all the news. Okay? And that's why this setup is, I'll go and I'll wander, I'll hit behind the pargud. I want to hear what's being done. And so we'll know the advanced news. The humans on the other, if she didn't know a human was there listening, so that's the assumption, okay, which we'll see in the end. But really, that's what's going on. Since he was there, Erev Rosh Hashanah, and the world is being judged, that's why they're saying, let's see what's going to happen. The language was, what misfortune is going to come to the world this year, because on Rosh Hashanah, that's when it's being judged. So that's really what's happening. He doesn't go back the next day and say, right? He doesn't go back. It says, L'shana ha'echeret. The next year, halach v'lan ha'kavarot. He went again and spent the night in the cemetery.
The story is saying he went on the eve of Rosh Hashanah in a year of famine. That's what it says. Did we start like that?
The first one was a year of famine. Reason why did he go? Remember, he gave his dinar. He gave his dinar to this guy. The wife yelled at him, and so he went to the cemetery. You said quiet. Okay, whatever. To me, he wants quiet. It could be that it could be 1,000 reasons why he would go to it. It could be a prophecy, as like the Maharsha wants to say. It could be anything. But the bottom line is that here he was, and the only, I just want to emphasize, the only reason the spirits are doing this is not because they can go anytime and to hear the announcement. The announcement's only going to be given out on Rosh Hashanah. That's the key point of Rosh. That's what we have to hear, Rosh Hashanah.
But humans don't know. We, those who are alive, we don't know what these announcements, what it's going to be, until that year unfolds. We don't know what the judgments are.
Right, correct. We don't know what the judgments are. So if I would get some advanced inside trading, insider trading here, the first insider trading, okay. So and they didn't know anybody was listening, which is an interesting thing in its own right that they didn't know anybody was listening. But it's here it says let's stop here for 1 second now and let's go through the story. It says like I said, the Maharsha says Kavanit Kasha. There was already a question on this. Yehuda ben Barilai. That this is Reb Shimon or who is this? We said it's Reb. Who the person was? Reb Yehuda, right? Reb Yehuda. He just got his abbreviation. Reb Yehuda bar Eli. Oh, Reb Yehuda ben Bava. Fine. So how could it come on your knowledge? How could it come to your mind? Shechasidim ke'elu yelchu b'layla Rosh Hashanah b'yichidut lebeit ha'kavara. How could it come up in your mind? This is his question. That these Hasidim, these righteous people, would go alone on Rosh Hashanah. We said in another Mishnah that one who walks on the road by himself at night is endangering his life. It's dangerous. You have, besides the thieves, you have demons, you have this, you have that, you have all these problems out there. Whether or not we hold by demons today is a different question, but in general, you're going out on the road alone, certainly to a cemetery, it's not a safe place to be. So it's against the law, quote unquote, the law, to do that because you're endangering yourself. Okay? So he says, that's one thing. Number two is Sham Makom Tuma. And it's also a place of spiritual impurity. If I go to, I went to the mikvah on Rosh Hashanah, Erev Rosh Hashanah, so I can become spiritually pure. And now I'm going to the Beit Kavara, the grave, the cemetery, which is full of tuma. Doesn't make sense. I've just reversed what I tried to accomplish. I was trying to become tahor, spiritually pure, and now I've gone into the makom tuma, into a spiritually impure place. Doesn't make sense. So he says, "Bevadai nachon kedivrei ridva." So therefore, the Maharsha says it's certainly like the words of the ridva, that the devar zeh b'chalom, that this whole thing was a dream. Behineni mosif bezeh, and so he's adding, and so I will add, the Maharsha will add to this. Since his wife argued with him, Haya lo siba, Shehaya Rabbi Yehuda bar Eli Oni, and the reason was because Rabbi Eli he was a very poor man. Kimafarash ben Adaram, like we learned in the Gemara, the Ota dinar echad, and that one dinar Shehaya lo that he had, the Talmud Ani echad he gave to that one poor person. Lo nishalo klum. So he had nothing left for himself. And since the dreams of Erev Rosh Hashanah are more true than any others, why? Shehu Yom Hadin, because it's the day of judgment. Therefore he fasted all of his days. It says that therefore, one who fasts all his days, that when he sees a dream on that day, because Uvda, the B'nai Achate, the Rabbi Yeshua ben Rabbi Yosef ben Zera, whatever, the Chazal, the Chama, like we see in a case where this rabbi saw, the Rivaz saw in his dream, Rosh Hashanah, the Ba'ul, the Machas Sheva Me'ad Dinar, that he had to subtract 700 dinar, and so on and so forth. So zeh haviu gamachas zeh shaya rotzel ishtamish b'chalom zeh. So also this righteous person want to do what was done in the dream. Rosh Hashanah leida lishmor atzmo mikol tekala, in order to guard himself from further problems. Ka'amor be'inyan, like it said in a specific manner. V'lo ye'oni, that he wouldn't be a poor person anymore. Ken Ketuv Shema, and so that's number one. So he's saying, since he had, why, in other words, you have a dream, right? Martin Luther King, I had a dream. Well, why do you listen to the dream? Okay, not in the case of Martin Luther King, but in the case of Junior, but in the case of this rabbi, why did he suddenly listen to a dream? I'm going to go, in other words, think about this. I'm planting. I'm a poor guy, but I have a piece of land apparently, or I'm a sharecropper, whatever the case is going to be. And I'm going to plant. Everybody and his brother starts to plant September 1st. Let's argue, okay? And I'm going to sit back on my laurels because of a dream and not plant. I'm not going to get the field ready. I'm not going to do anything until the second rain. You're going to look at me, my wife who yelled at me for giving away my last dinar, she's not going to yell at me more for not planting? And then I tell her, but honey, I had a dream. She's going to say, jump in the lake.
Question.
No, so let me just finish.
Yeah.
But then you ask the question. So the question is, why would he give in to this dream? Why do you have so much faith in the dream? So the Maharsha is saying the reason he had so much faith in the dream was because it was Erev Rosh Hashanah. And so the dreams that he had, it says one who fasts all these days. In other words, a pious person, if he has a dream on Erev Rosh Hashanah, it means something. And he could take, and he trusted in the dream. It was like a prophecy.
So it says the Erev Rosh Hashanah gave the dinar to the poor man on the eve of Rosh. Does that mean like it was the night before? It wasn't Because if it was the day of Erev Rosh Hashanah, then the dream would have had to been Rosh Hashanah. So this had to be the night before he's talking about, yeah?
Okay.
And he had to, either we went to the cemetery or he had the dream the night before the first night of Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, I hear what you're saying. That's interesting.
Is that right? I mean, or how do we read this? Because my understanding is, again, we talked about dreams before, that I understand that the rabbis tell us that if you have a dream, if you have a communication, quote unquote, within a dream, if it's Shabbos night or Yom Tov night, you have to discount that because your stomach's full of food and it could do goofy things.
Well, he didn't have a dinner.
Huh?
He probably didn't eat because he gave away his dinner. So his wife made him miserable. He probably didn't eat that day. All you would want to.
So it could have been Rosh Hashanah night.
Could have been Rosh Hashanah night.
The
reason you wouldn't have the reason in a normal situation where I wouldn't trust a dream, like a children's dream on Shabbos morning, is because, like you said, food will do crazy things to you. But it's if I don't have much food, that's only if I overeat or I you have
a big meal.
I have a big meal. But if I just had maybe a kiddush or something, and a little bit of challah, I don't think that's going to affect my dreams, except to make me think I want to have more food. That's the way I heard it.
Because people normally eat every day, and that's what I understood. That if you have a dream on a normal night where you haven't eaten a lot of food, then it might mean something, it might not, and we don't know that for sure.
So I'm not, like I said, I hear what you're saying. I think it was probably Erev. The way it's phrased, Erev Rosh Hashanah can't be 2 days before. It should be Erev. So he probably gave it. The guy probably came to him when he was going to the marketplace.
The guy would be able to buy something to make for that night.
Right, and then so he comes home and his wife yells at him, and he goes off to the
either has the dream or goes off to the cemetery, whatever.
Either way.
Okay.
Right. So then he says, so again, he's in the dream, so the king Ketuv, Shamati, so also he says, I heard, that the Gam Dor Acharonim, and that in later generations, Shayum Mishtamshim Baalei Chalamot, that they would use these masters of the dream, Ayidei HaShavuot, B'Shemot, through the oaths and names, and he said that he went in that dream, and he stayed in the Beit Kavara, in the cemetery. The Shama Beit Ruchot, and he heard these two voices, the two spirits. Nakat Lashon Ruchot, he uses language of Ruchot, Lo Nefashot, and not, in other words, he uses language of spirits, but not souls. Or Neshamot, or another word for soul. Lefi Sheyadua, because it's known. Sha'adam is lo nefesh ruach, v'neshama that it has, that the person has in him the soul of the spirit and the neshama. Nefesh u'achomer, the nefesh, that thing that we call nefesh, is the material. Neshama hiyatzora, and the neshama is what we call the form. Ruach hu be'emsa, and the ruach is in the middle of that. So you have the form, you have the material, the form, and that which is the middle is called the ruach. Hamidabe kol yimei chaye adam, which attaches itself, holds it to pieces together, I guess, the glue that holds it together during the life of the man. Okay, gam b'motu shel adam. So also in the case when the person dies, shaguf pared min neshama, when the body separates from the soul, shaguf holech el ha'afar, because the body is going to the dust. The neshama holechet lamala, and the neshama, the soul, is going to the above, and there's back to Hashem. The ruach, and the spirit, shuhu midabkin b'chayim, that was attached during the life, that attached these things during the life. Eno miparid mehem legamri, does not separate. Oh, that's your tether. That's what I was talking about, the tether. Does not, now I was explaining it, does not separate from them completely. Ella shepa'amim l'fa'amim hu shorab makom guf, but sometimes it remains with in the place of the body. And sometimes it goes to where the neshama is. It has a summer and two residences. Okay, the summer or the winter. And that's what it means behind the curtain. So behind the curtain is where your neshama is. Okay? And here is where your body is. So v'chein l'kamen da'amar le'solik l'rekiya. That's why he says we're going up to the sky. Dahachi ata and so forth. V'hani nami ruach v'cholech l'malu l'mata. So that's similar to when this ruach, the glue, is holding these pieces together. The tether is going to up and down to the heavens and down to the ground. And that's what the chassid did in the next year, Rosh Hashanah. Shahaya mishtamesh gam az b'cholamot l'dad l'shmoat shmom b'parniot habali olam, because he used those dreams to guard himself from the tribulations that are going to come into the world, into the world. V'chein yesh lefarish ba'hu uvda d'zir Shmuel. Okay, the chassid mavet v'heidu nami al yidei chalom ha'yishamshem. So what the Maharsha is saying every time is, when we have these stories of the cemeteries, somebody going in, is not really that they're going in, it's a dream that they're utilizing. But what's interesting and what's the fascinating part of that Maharsha is he explains the tether. Like I said, the neshama somehow is held to the body. Well, it's held to the body with this ruach. Remember, we're giving nefesh, we're giving the guf, which is the nefesh. Then you have the neshama, which is the spiritual part, and then you have the ruach holding it together. So that ruach becomes a tether. So sometimes the ruach is down and with the body. Okay? Which is why you don't want to relocate the body, probably. There's a halacha that you shouldn't relocate a body unless there's a real reason for it, right? We don't disinter to reinter. Once you bury the person, you bury the person. You have to have an address, I guess. I don't know. And then, then the neshama is up in Gan Eden, or in Yisrael is in Gan Eden anyway. So now we have this ruach going in between. It's interesting. Yeah. So when it says Achrei Pargud, behind the curtain, it means that he's going to visit the neshama. So that's when he's going to get potentially all the information. So now this chassid, via prophecy, whatever else is going to be, he's getting the information. Understand?
So like just an everyday person, you have a dream of some type of communication. This might be what's going on, or is he talking about strictly the dead people in the cemetery? Because this happened to a live person, that you have this partial separation that's going back and forth and giving you information in a dream?
So we say every night that our neshama goes up to the Beitin, the court above, to report what we've done that day. And so if we're found guilty, then we die. If we're not found guilty, then the neshama gets to come back. Which is, so what happens when our neshama goes up, a ruach ra'ah, and there's just a ruach enters our body, the ruach that we have, which also explains this, by the way, is very interesting. This ruach ra'ah that we have is just not the neshama. It's that thing that's holding us together. Okay, that tether. Well, without the neshama, that's what is the pure part of us. Remember, our bodies aren't pure. Our neshama is what's pure. And so when that neshama comes back into the body, as it were, because God allows it to come back, for whatever reasons God has, and then, so now it pushes out that ruach, as it were, that ruach that was maintaining me, okay? So that's the ruach ra. Why? Why is it raw? Because it wasn't pure as the neshama, who's now clean. So I have to wash my fingers to get rid of that ruach ra, right? That's why we do it every morning. We also in the morning, what we say, Moda ani lefanecha melcha v'kayam, shechazarta bi nishmati b'chemla, rabbe emunatecha. Great is your, I'm sorry.
No, that's
fine. We acknowledge before you.
I've read that before.
Right, okay, good. So, but the point is, we don't say v'chemla rabba be'emunatecha, we say b'chemla rabba emunatecha. great is your trust. In other words, what's going on there? Because you should have killed us. You should have, when our neshama went, we did things wrong. Every day we sin. Okay, so we didn't live up to potential. So if that's the case, it seems that you should have killed us that night. But Baruch Hashem, you didn't. You sent my neshama back. So I'm acknowledging your compassion, and great is your trust in me. Okay, so that's what we're doing. But so our neshama does go up every day, but that ruach is tethering it, so it will come back. But when we die, the only thing that's left, as long as I'm still here, that the body is still here, is that tethering has a place to come here, come there, whatever the case is going to be. The ruach, excuse me. The ruach is doing it. It's an interesting concept.
All right, something tangential. I don't know if you want to talk about this now.
We'll stop here. We're going to stop here because it's late. But it's on the first story. Go ahead.
So for many years, I've come under a belief that when I was younger, I thought this was crazy stuff, Right. But I seem to have a conception in my